Hello, and welcome to the Papa Loves You podcast, episode 2, with MeliDaMartian. How are you, Meli?
Hey, I'm doing very, very well. How are
I'm
you?
I'm fantastic. Absolutely delighted to have you here. We've been friends for a long time, and it's fun. It's fun.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. To say the least. I'm really excited. I'm excited for this talk. I'm excited to be here. Ah, awesomeness.
It's gonna be great. So we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff. I guess. Do you want to maybe start with Juneteenth? Just
Yes,
what it's all about, since
absolutely.
that's it today. Apparently, it's not really a
Yes.
thing in the UK. Although it probably should be kind of recognized because we kind of caused the US, didn't we? So it's kind of our fault, our bad. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Well, so I think it's so timely that that today's podcast landed on June 19th. So Juneteenth is a celebration of pretty much the last state to inform slaves that they were free, and it was it. Pardon. So it was in Galveston, Texas. So like 2.5 years prior, Abraham Lincoln had already kind of wrote the Emancipation of Slaves, like freed the slaves. But Texas was an area that had not fallen to the Union, so they were still Confederate controlled. So it wasn't until about 2.5 years later that they're like, okay, I guess we'll tell you. And so it was a huge, huge deal. Um, and I think it's so the timeliness of it, because July 4th is like the entire nation's kind of emancipation. But
From
I
us.
think that
It's freedom from us.
yes, Wookie, yes. But yes, yes. So I think that today is such a wonderful day for this conversation and to I don't know, make people aware of some things if they weren't before and just have some good context around it.
It's just it's something to, you know, the fact that it happened in the first place, that there was stuff like slavery and stuff, is so fucking
Yeah.
atrocious. But to have a day to recognize when that ended, for this
Hmm.
particular nation, because a lot of other countries there's still that going on, unfortunately, and there's some
Yes.
horrible shit out there. But I don't know, it's beautiful, it's a good thing, and it's every human being, regardless of what patch of land, uh what genitals they're attracted to, everyone deserves
Yes.
equal footing. Everyone deserves to be treated like a normal human being.
Exactly, exactly. I think, jokingly a lot of the times, like I'll tell people like it is no concern what giblets excite you or what giblets you have. Like it's what matters is like the depth of your being and your appreciation for everyone and everything around you because ultimately my personal opinion is like ultimately everything is here to teach us and guide us through this human experience that we're having. And there's just with this month being also Pride Month in the United States, there's just so many different celebrations going on, and it's so exciting and it's so beautiful to see everyone in like their element, whether they're celebrating the love that they share or just who they are, how they identify. I mean, I don't know, it really excites me. And it, anyone who finds hatred or frustration in the love and joy and celebration of others,
You mean
it
the
sucks to suck.
you mean the when straight pride crowd? Is that what you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about? Well, let me
Yes.
address that now for the straight pride people. Like, look, the reason that pride exists is because there are people out there, because of something they can't control, they would rather die than be honest with
Mhm.
themselves because of people like you. So no, there's no straight pride. Fuck off.
Mm.
Anyway.
Exactly. It's it's interesting. I actually just had a conversation yesterday about the acronym LGBTQIA plus, and um, the not necessarily the validity of it. And I by no means am the spokesperson for this amazing group of people. However, I find myself, an ally and very much a part of the community in any way, shape, or form I can possibly be. Um, but it was interesting how, um, sometimes people feel that when things get too complicated, they kind of like throwing up my red flag like this. There's just so many acronyms. I just don't understand what's happening. Um, and ultimately, it's like, well, the same way we learn about everything else there is on this planet, we can sit down and learn these acronyms and just embrace them for what they are. So, lesbian, gay, transgender, transsexual, intersex, an ally, and everything that is fluid in between.
So the
The
A actually stands
queer,
for asexual.
asexual.
Yes. The ally part is not part of the acronym, and that's something there's been quite a lot of discourse over Twitter about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's
but yeah. So it's
no,
asexual, so it's people who do not have a sexual attraction, which is
that
yeah. Everyone's learning
that's
all the time.
awesome. That's good. Thank you for educating. Pardon. Thank you for educating me on that because I mean, and I'm glad you said that because even yesterday, I had mentioned that, there are people who don't have any sexual attraction to anyone or anything, and that's okay as well. And I forget what it was. I was listening to a podcast where even people who are asexual still like that emotional connection to people,
Mhm.
still have, very fulfilling lives and
Yep.
everything. So,
There's people who are asexual who still have, sex, but it's not
mhm,
seen as they want to have sex. They want to share something intimately with their partner, and it's not necessarily the fact they're having sex. It's just the fact they're sharing
mhm,
something. Everyone thinks about it
exactly.
differently, and it's a beautiful thing. Like
Yes.
everyone is so different. There's so many different variety, and like people that just want to lump it down to two categories, like fuck, like it's like going to an ice cream parlor and all there is fucking vanilla. Like who
Exactly.
wants that? Vanilla's great, cool, awesome, but don't you want something else in your life?
Exactly. And then there's people like me who can't even have the dairy vanilla. I gotta have oat milk or almond milk or
Oat milk's
coconut milk.
awesome though. Oat milk's really good.
It is. It is. It is so good. And so I mean, it's just like the variety of life is amazing. It's
Hmm?
just like the five love languages, everyone speaks their love
Hmm?
language differently. And even people who are sexual may not like the types of sexual things that other people like. So it's just there's so many layers to everything. And to think that it's just like black or white is just ridiculous.
I
But
mean, like,
I digress.
I the whole acronym and everything existing, it's really important and stuff. But like personally, for me,
Mhm.
I'd just prefer there was no labels. I just prefer that's a person. Who gives a
Yeah,
fuck? Like,
exactly. Exactly.
again, I just want everyone to be treated equally. And when the whole like Black Lives Matter stuff kind of kicked up at the start of the pandemic,
Mhm.
I was like
Yes.
super confused by it because I've always been raised like my mother was awesome. Like she is awesome. She's still awesome.
Mhm.
I was raised basically being shown, everyone's a human being. Treat them all with respect. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, where they're from or what they're into or whatever. And like when I got into the real world, it was a whole fucking shock for me.
Ah, I can only imagine. It's so for me, I grew up in the southeast portion of the United States, so considered the Bible Belt and very much Southern old fashioned, which, to some extent there is a subtle charm, if you will, about it, but there are other aspects of it where it's like the unspoken nuances of growing up in a very strict area where um I mean it's just there are times where my family and I were going to a store, the door opens to like your local clothing store, what have you, and if someone is exiting, depending on who they are, like you step to the side, and it's like it's so strange. It's just like took it took me a long time to realize that, oh, I am learning behaviors that make me subconsciously think that I am an inconvenience to others in some way, shape, or form, or I'm lesser. I need to make others more comfortable around me than necessary. And it was very challenging. I'll tell you a quick story about when I was in college.
Please do. Please do.
And so my educational background is in civil engineering, and I was starting off schooling in a very small town, very close to home to help family. And I was one of 7 students in pre-engineering courses. A lot of the times I was the only, person who identified as a female, the only person who, just so happened to be a minor. And as far as like how I identify, and I was also a tutor. And so my classmates, they would come by the library, we would study and practice together. And it was a phenomenal experience to finally feel like, oh, I feel like I'm a part of this like community and this is awesome. And so when we started to apply to larger colleges to go into our specific branches of engineering, um, I had a classmate who I'd studied beside for, about 8 months or so. And I thought we had this, bond, if you will, just kind of that we've been in the trenches together, we've been through things. And he was just like, wherever you apply to, you have a better chance of getting in than me. And so I was like, mixed emotions. How do you mean? It's like, well, first of all, you're, a minority and you're a girl. So schools need more of that. So you're totally going to get in. And I was like, I'm pretty sure because I've been on the president's list and the dean's list and I'm acing these classes, and you may not be, could possibly be the reason why. And I mean, it's so frustrating. And I mean, to me, just the audacity that someone could look me in my eyes and say, you're just getting in because of who you are, not because of your efforts at all.
You're just getting in apparently because you're black and female. Like that's
Exactly.
such a
Exactly.
ridiculous statement. Like it's like the people who got mad about hot tub streamers.
Mm.
My numbers are lower because there's girls in hot tubs. It's like no, it's not.
Yeah.
Let's be
Or
honest
you have
here.
it
Like
easier.
with my games and stuff, some attractive lady in a hot tub wasn't making a difference to me playing Dark Souls and laughing at farts. Like it's a different demographic. But that's
Yes.
frustrating.
Yes.
That's gotta be like that's gotta like kind of hurt as well. It's gotta make you feel like, you know, your achievements
Oh yeah.
are almost given to you, which they're not. You worked hard for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, it bothered me so tremendously then, and as I've gone through my adult life, and my professional career, it has plagued me. Like honestly, I think about um different awards that I've received or recognition that I've received by the company, or the levels of promotion, as far as like I've never been minimally involved in anything that I do. Anything that I involve myself with, I give 100+% of myself. Like, I'm not just a passive recipient of
Mhm.
it. So, I'm very involved in organizations both through my college life and also my professional life. And I think to myself, like, was I, given this opportunity because of my gender? Or was I given this opportunity because I'm not white like a lot of my coworkers? And it's it's always something that kind of like dances in the back of my mind. But, that's where I start to journal and
Mhm.
meditate and think like, okay, is this my anxiety speaking, or is this me? Is this like a true concern or what? I'm like just trying to get to the bottom
Yeah.
of where it's stemming from, because I don't think people understand some of the hurtful things that are said, whether it's intentional or not. It lasts.
Mhm.
It leaves an
Mhm.
everlasting impression, like, it leaves a scar in there.
Yeah, for
So
sure. The way that people, they're trying to be kind, but sometimes with them trying to be helpful or kind, or you know trying to show that they understand something, they're being way more hurtful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of people, they just don't realize they're doing that though. And
Mm-mm.
like, what was told back to you when you were studying was another person being insecure because they thought they were
Oh,
great, but the
absolutely.
reality was they weren't. That's all it was.
Absolutely. Yeah, and trying to find validity in, well, if I apply to this school and I don't get in, but they get in, I have a reason now as to why I didn't get in, so I feel better. And
It's
it's
like essentially playing trauma tag, where it's like, here,
exactly.
have
And
that, ha ha, run away.
exactly. And you don't like, to me, it always blows my mind. Like, you don't have to put someone else down
No,
in order for you to bring yourself up. And to make matters not necessarily worse, but to add more context to it, this was a relatively young college student. I was a relatively young college student at the time. And as an adult now, I'm thinking, what influenced him to think that way? What conversations are being had in the background of, their environment to make them think and feel and act that way?
yeah, I don't know. Like, sometimes it's not even like where they are or their environment. It's just that they're just looking really deep to find excuses because they know they're
Yes.
not gonna do well. They know they're gonna fail, and they like, their brain can't figure that out because they think
Mhm.
like, it's is that more like a narcissism type trait? I
I
guess.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like a like a narcissistic trait for sure. 'Cause I mean, everything in some way, shape, or form is somehow tied back to them.
Because most people don't think that way. If I'm gonna fail something, my first thought is, "Oh my god, I'm shit at this." I don't start blaming other people or all this. I'm just like, "My god, I'm terrible." You know?
No, that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point, because if I suck at something or if I fail at something, I'm never like, "Oh, it's because Wook is here." I'm telling you, if Wook was not standing
Yeah.
there, I would.
It's mad. It's like when people think that way, that, oh, this isn't going well. Well, it can't be my fault.
Oh my goodness.
It's not healthy.
Absolutely not. And of course, they're always right.
Of
Always.
course. Of course. But like,
So
just everyone just needs to accept that some people are a different shade of color of skin, or they come from a different patch of dirt, but it doesn't make any
exactly.
difference. Like, none.
Exactly. Yes. And it's
Yeah. Go on.
I no, I was just gonna say, I think there's this podcast I'm gonna have to share with you. Um, about this. There's a story of a young woman, like real life story. She's a young Black woman, and she was adopted by a family in Mexico.
Mm.
And so she was raised in Mexico. She speaks Spanish. Like
Mm.
that is her culture, that is her life. And she just so happens to have the origin of being a Black woman.
Mm.
And it is so incredible to see um how she documents her experiences kind of um growing up and getting into her adult life. And she's like, yeah, I still go back home and like see my family and my cousins. And when I tell people at college and school that like, yeah, I'm Mexican. I'm this, like, this is my family. Let me show you pictures of my family. She's like, so many people are confused. And
Why?
it brings about like the idea that subconsciously people are making judgments and assumptions about everyone's backgrounds all the time. And to some extent, as human beings, if you will, like it's allowed us to survive. Like if we see something big and furry in the woods, we're not going to say, let's just go explore. Let's not make any assumptions about this. Like we're like, okay, could be danger. Let's back up.
Generally, if you see something big and furry in the woods, I'm walking my neighbor's dog or something. It's not. It's probably not something as scary as you think.
Or it's Wookiee. Oh my goodness. I'll think of that next time I'm hiking. I
What is
certainly
that?
will.
It's just Luke. It's fine.
Wookiee, is that you?
Ooh,
Give me an ooh
just
if it's
echoing
safe.
through the forest.
Oh
It's
my
just mad that the people still use, like visually what a
mm,
person is when you don't know. Like to me, where you're from isn't what patch of dirt you were born on or your genetics. It's culturally what you were surrounded with as you were like in your formative years.
mm-hmm.
You grew up around this cultural stuff, and that's your culture because that's where you learn everything. That's where you learn your behaviors. You learn how to, communicate. Learn how to play with toys. Everything. That's your culture.
Yes,
Not the patch of
yes.
dirt you're from.
Mm-hmm. It's so as well, I teach yoga and I absolutely love everything holistic and
Mm.
wellness and self-growth and self-learning. And so as I was learning, or as I am continuing to learn about the chakras, the energy wheels that we have within our bodies, um, it's interesting that some of the chakras, not that they ever stop growing, but some don't get activated until certain years. Um, and some become more rigid. So, for example, your initial chakras from birth to about 7 to 12 years old, there's your root chakra, the feeling of like feeling safe and your presence and your existence just as the essence of it. And then there's your sacral chakra, the the love, the well-being, the care. And then there's like, above that you have your solar plexus chakra, which is your identity. And all of those are formed in your early years. And it's so interesting. It's like whether you were, cared for when you cried, or if your parents or grandparents had the mindset of, oh, let them cry it out. Like that develops how you handle things like way later on in life.
Mm.
The same way if you were able to express yourself by, putting spray colors in your hair, or if you were allowed to reorganize your room, or if you could pick out your own toys. It's just these little nuances that truly create who you are. Because I know for a lot of people who have experienced trauma or who have lived in places that are not truly conducive to safety and education, just like out and about. It's like depending on what kind of environment they had, they could either, excel or find a lot of obstacles to overcome as they, get to a place where they can succeed. So,
So the whole like
yeah.
chakra sort of, it's kind of like a holistic way to explain the development of personality and who you are. That's really cool,
Mhm.
actually. I've never really thought about it that way. Because you know what, me, I'm just a massive skeptic, and I'm cool with stuff like this. Like, again, I've got
Yeah.
pagan friends that if they were to say they were going to curse me, I'd be scared. But I'm just, I just think a lot of these things are just different ways to explain things, and
Exactly.
but it's cool. That's really cool. Like, because you do like a Reiki healing and
Mhm.
all sorts of cool
Yes.
stuff like that. Like,
Yes.
what have you got under your belt with all that stuff?
Oh my goodness.
Get your
I
Batman style utility belt out of healing. Show me.
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? Where do I start? I could literally grab my crystals. I could get my organ like um so oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, we could start with the simplest form of meditation, breathing exercises, which is like where I start. And like sometimes I'll do wellness streams where literally I'm just taking people through breathing exercises. And there are two types, well, more than two types clearly, but the two major types that I kind of go through is like whether you're trying to ground yourself, like if you're feeling heightened energy, a lot of anxiety, just feeling anxious in general, or if you are feeling kind of lethargic, if just this sense of apathy is just like, oh, just too much, then you just sit down, you find, a comfortable seated position, and we're either going to begin controlling the breathing with like long sets of holding the breath, kind of at the top or the bottom, inhale, exhale, or or there's, kind of bringing in fresh air and like really strong, hearty breaths and allowing that energy to start flowing and the blood to get pumping. And so just, so there's that. So there's meditating, breathing, there's the movement and yoga and all bodies, everybody can move in yoga. And I hear a lot of I can't even touch my toes. How am I supposed to do yoga? We do yoga because you can't touch your toes.
Yoga's hard. Yoga's
Yes.
really hard. Like, holy crap.
Yes.
Like, the just looking at, the actual health benefits of it for your spine, yoga is like 10 out of 10
Mhm.
for spinal health. Like, it's nuts.
Oh, yeah.
It's super good
Oh,
for
yeah.
you. I should do more shit like that, but
Yes, and I'm hoping as soon as I get, like, my space set up, I'm hoping to do, like, yoga on stream to help guide people through it, just, like, beginner yoga if possible.
like I've tried
So
it a few times, and like honestly, there's nothing more like nothing that can emasculate you more than going to like a yoga class and being like a fairly young sort of cis male and just getting absolutely shown up by a 70 something old lady.
I'm telling you, people who have had long-standing
Mm-hmm.
practices in yoga, they know their bodies
Mm-hmm.
so well. And it wasn't until I started learning that yoga happens all the time, literally 24/7. Like you don't have to be on your mat to do yoga. Literally like your posture, the way you're breathing at all times, the way you're stepping or moving into something, the way you reach for something. It is all just like, are you conscious of how your body's moving or are you like just throwing yourself in every direction?
Flailing
Like I've
endlessly, hoping you'll get somewhere.
e- exactly. And it's insane. It's like there have been, you know, pregnant women, men in their 60s, 70s, women in their 60s and 70s doing, you know, shoulder stands, forearm balances, like so many crazy inversions, so many like pretzel poses. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And it's all because like they yoga people built
Yeah, I saw that.
it.
Definitely Kelpie. Like yoga people really are though. Like,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I as a child I did gymnastics, so I am still to this day extremely flexible. But yoga's different. Yoga's not just flexibility. There's so much to it. It's brutal.
Oh
It's
yeah.
brutal. Like if you wanna feel pain, go to a yoga class and try and keep up.
Oh my gosh. And it also depends, like there's yin yoga, which is very slow, like there's no flow in between. You do a pose and then you reset and do another pose, and it's like each pose you're holding it. And your body is like, "Holy cow, what is this?" And all of a sudden there's all this like energy that's letting loose, and your brain is like, but what about that thing that happened to us like 5 years ago that I'm still super embarrassed about? And you're like, stop it, we're here.
It's like what you were saying about breathing stuff as well.
Mm,
I tried like guided meditation a couple of times, and
mhm.
honestly, every time I just get like my brain shuts off and then I just fall asleep. Like I'll just start snoring and just gone.
Mhm.
Like
Which
I,
is totally normal.
yeah, but it's just
That's
like I feel like I'm wasting everyone's time, and then I start snoring, and everyone else loses concentration, and it's like it's maybe just not for me. But I think that's why a lot of people turn to things like singing, because there's like a
Mhm,
discipline to it about like with your breathing and everything like that, and like you don't think, you're just doing the thing,
mhm.
you're being present in the moment, and I think that's why a
Yes,
lot of people move to that kind of stuff too.
absolutely, absolutely. I think just like watching, I love going to see live music, open mic nights and things like that, or just watching live performances on, from YouTube or
Mm.
wherever. And when you look at the guitarist, the drummer, there are times in a song they're just like they're not looking at anything.
No.
At some points, they're not even looking at their instruments. They're just in it and their bodies are moving. And like I love that you bring up, that if you do a guided meditation and you fall asleep, it's literally like the way that I best understand it is your brain has already made that connection of if I am still and my eyes are closed and there's no like stimulation, sleep. Like this is sleep time. That connection has been made, and that is honestly that's me as well. Like when I do meditations, I do like a candle meditation where I set a candle on a chair and I'm sitting on my bolster and I'm like watching the candle and I'm closing my eyes and I'm watching the candle, I'm closing my eyes. The other things are like, movement meditation like tai chi or qigong or
Mm.
things like that. And then you've also got for singing. Sometimes, car karaoke, it's a thing for a reason. Then there's also, um, like I have Tibetan singing bowls, which are like these metal bowls that sound absolutely beautiful. And you can om or chant or however with them, or you could just like sing along with them. And it's just that vibration is so relaxing, and it's the same way, like, when someone's creating music or painting or
It's just
it's
like a lot of meditation is you're focusing on something so that you stop
Mhm.
thinking about literally everything else and you're just present. And
Exactly.
it's like it's super good for your brain to just be able to switch off like that.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so beneficial for a lot of people to do lots of different things. And it doesn't have to be, like a holistic way. Just go in
Right.
and singing karaoke, or like,
Exactly.
just focusing on your breathing and picking up a guitar and playing that, like these are all different things that can just you get just a moment of reprieve from your brain,
Mhm.
which a lot of people
Yes.
need. They need it. It's super
Yes.
important. Like, I don't know, like if I go months without doing something like that, I just get so sad and worked up and stressed and
Mhm.
just I don't know, man. Like you have to do it. You have to like look after it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's like, so I think when a lot of people think about wellness, um, for example, like I have siblings that are skeptical. And it to me, I try not to, because I've been on this journey for so long, I try not to have like immediate assumptions or judgments, you know? And sometimes it's hard. It's like, how do you not know about all the types of wellness? Because everyone is human and everyone's starting from a different point. Duh. But it's like, so there are a few areas of wellness that I think people should absolutely be aware of. And I've got like a little list. So,
Let's go.
so there's
Show me your
like,
list.
so there's emotional wellness, which I think is probably what a lot of people are most familiar with. Are you able to regulate your emotions in spaces where you feel very charged or spaces where you feel very like your light is being put out, like when you feel like things are overwhelming you? um there's occupational wellness. Do you, feel healthy in what you are doing as far as like your career goes? Because some people are realizing, especially over the course of the pandemic, which has not ended, um, that the work environments that they're in, be it at home or in the office, are not as healthy as they thought it was initially. Um, are they supported if and when they get sick? Are they supported if and when their family members get sick? I've lost a lot of loved ones over this pandemic, and it has made me realize some of those things of
Hmm.
whether or not I'm supported. Um, and it is absolutely not okay for your supervisor or employer to tell you that work is a great distraction as you're mourning the loss of a loved one. Absolutely not healthy. Absolutely not okay.
Fucking disgusting. Like I
Yes.
I had a previous job where I was going through some pretty brutal, anxiety based stuff like just to be for full disclosure and everything, I was having like very regular panic attacks where I'd go to do something and like I just couldn't. I'd freeze. I'd start hyperventilating. Just overthinking everything. And
Mhm.
eventually, it got to the point with this job because it was so stressful and everyone was so like rude and horrible and everything that I just said, "Look, I'm not coming back." And
Good for you.
basically, the owner of that company straight up called me, threatened legal action, and then
Excuse
said,
me?
"If just sitting on your bum's gonna make you better, then there's no fucking hope for you," and like hung up on me. Yeah,
What?
this place had like signs up on the walls saying, "If you go to the toilet more than 3 times in a shift, we will talk to you about it." They wouldn't let you go out for your lunch break. They brought food in so you couldn't leave. Like it was really
That's
fucked up.
that is like that's awful. I'm so sorry you went through that, first of all. And what crappy
I
people.
lasted a month. Like it was a month, and I was like, I can't do this. Like it
Ugh,
destroys me. Like my partner
I'm
was
so
just like, you need
sorry.
to just not be there. Holy shit.
Yes. Ugh. That Oh my goodness. Okay, we're gonna have to I'll send you some Palo Santo, and you're just gonna have to smudge yourself. Just cleanse your spirit of that place.
But like that led me to go to. Oh, I just knocked one of my lights over. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Okay, there we go. It's because I'm wiggling my feet about and I'm kicking cables and stuff like an idiot. But that led
No.
to me to where I work now, and I love it. And like the difference in, you know, there's been times where maybe I don't feel 100%, and my boss is just like, "Go home, go relax. You're
Mhm.
cool. This won't count as an absentee or anything like that. Just go home. You're cool." Like
That's
when
amazing.
my partner got COVID and I wasn't testing positive and stuff, my manager's just
Mhm.
like, "No, don't come in. You're not coming in. Like, not happening. Stay home. You can work from home. It's fine. It's absolutely fine."
See,
It's just a
that's
completely
incredible.
different place.
And the fact that you're able to see like the two sides of that coin is incredible. Like I think I told you like over the pandemic, I had maybe 2.5 weeks at home, working from home. After that, it was required of my group in particular to continue reporting into the office after that. And it was terrifying.
It's
Like
just a
the
lack of
amount of
trust. That's what it is. It's
absolutely.
fucking again. I did it. Hold on. What is going on with
Why
this?
do you hate that light,
I
Wookie?
don't. I
Why
love
do
it.
you
It's
hate
great.
the
The light's great.
light?
It's because it's precariously balancing on the green screen I have for streaming. Like it's like
Ah,
it rolls down and up, but and I
ah,
keep bumping it and it goes no.
gotcha. I like the new green screen, by the way.
Thank you.
It gives like a different feel to your streams, but I still love it. I love it. I love
I
it.
like the whole point of it is I'm trying to minimize. I'm trying to make it more immersive. That's the whole point. Like
Mhm.
I turn my camera off when there's cutscenes, little things like that. Like I've always
Yes.
done that, and I've always been looking to make it more and more. Just you can focus on the game.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. And it's funny. The first time I saw your like cut screen videos, I'm like, oh, it's Baby Wook. Look at him. I was so like especially the part where you're chasing the star and you're just like, come here, darn you. And then it like falls off the cliff or something. It's just, oh my God, I was so tickled.
That was 2 years ago.
Baby Wook was just 2 years ago.
I only started streaming 2 years ago.
Really? That's
Yep.
so exciting. Oh my gosh. And it's I am so I cannot tell you how happy I am to have met you and so many amazing people. And it's like we're not even geographically, we're not in the same like space, but I feel like we are just like so connected. And I love it. I love
It's
it.
really cool.
Absolutely
Like
love it.
the sort of extended group we have. There's so much
Hmm.
variety. Everyone's so different, but it's so nice. It's super nice, and
Oh yeah.
it's kind of an example of like what I was saying. People should be like before. Doesn't matter where someone is, what they represent. You know what genitals they want to fondle. It's
Exactly.
they're humans.
Exactly.
Treat them like humans. But yeah,
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly. Or Martians if they want to identify as Martians.
yeah. Martians are cool. Again, if you grew up in the culture of Mars, you're gonna be a Martian. Doesn't matter where you're born.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness. But before I digress too much, I do want to tell you the rest of the
Do it.
circles of wellness.
Do it.
So there's like the spiritual wellness, which is a lot of people may assume that this is like, oh, you have to be religious or you have to be like into witchcraft or something like that. And honestly, it is whatever you believe. Like, if you believe in a higher power, if you don't, if you just believe, like, we're here just enjoying Mother Earth, it doesn't have to be like this big worshiping ritualistic thing. It's just however your experiences of this, human life, whatever that is, do you feel well about it? Are you able to express yourself about it? Um, then there's, physical wellness. And this one is huge because I think a lot of people automatically think fitness, fitness, you got to work out, fitness, fitness. But there's also the people who have experienced injuries, who can no longer do the things that they were able to do before. And thinking, okay, are you physically able to do the things that you can and need to do? Are you stretching? Are you, if you are injured, are you taking care of yourself? Do you have the wellness physically for what you need? And I love that there's a lot more there's a lot more around right now that talks about people who have physical disabilities and how they experience, social environments, how they navigate romance, how and I say they because I don't I don't have a physical disability, but I am aware that these are things that exist. Like there was a video I saw about asking people with physical disabilities, how do you feel about others using the largest ADA restroom when you enter a restroom or when you're in a locker room or something like that? Like, how do you feel about that? And the most consistent reaction is, I'm super pissed about it because, um, there's a lot of times where, for example, there was a woman who was in a wheelchair. She identified as a woman, and she's like, I go in the women's restroom, and it's like when in her experience of her life, she's like, when I feel that I have to go, I cannot wait to go. I can't hold it. I have to go. And if there's someone in that stall who's texting on their phone or just like, just using the extra walls, it's just like, oh, this is my alone space. Like, I just need this space. It is not okay. So it's just, physically, no matter what your experience is, um, do you have the resources you need? Are you getting what you need physically? Um, there's also social wellness. What is your personality like? Are you introverted, extroverted? Are you somewhere in between, which is me? I'm somewhere in between. I have bouts of being super extroverted and bouts where I'm like, I think I'm going to be a hermit for a little bit and then I'll come back out. Are you able to socially express yourself or not? Then there's intellectual, which is your journaling, your are you reading books that are allowing you to explore yourself on an intellectual level, how you feel about things, how you feel about the world around you. Um, and then there's, the environmental. How do you feel about literally the environment that you're in, your home, your work, your walk to work, your just everything in general, like environmentally, have you cultivated spaces where you can rest well, where you can read, where you can, do your physical activity, or where you can socialize? Can you socialize at home? Do you feel the need to go out? Are you uncomfortable with different dynamics? So it's, so those are like the major areas of wellness that I think are really important for people to see and be aware of. Because I notice like a lot of people, particularly younger people that I've spoken to, they'll say, "Oh, I'm just, I'm bored. I feel uninspired," in that stage of just like, "Oh, there's nothing for me to do." And it's like, "Oh, there's quite a bit you can learn about your wellness circle. How can you make your life better?"
Or you could do what I do and just constantly do stuff. And then you're like, I don't know where I am anymore. Who am I? I mean, I work 8 hours a day. My streams
Mm,
regularly hit 6, 7 hours on top of that. Like, and I sleep like a baby.
you are on it. You are
uh,
certainly on it.
yeah, I noticed there was a message in chat. Hello, I need some help. I work at Walmart as a door greeter and my stress is high. I feel like I'm about to explode and I don't know what to do to handle it.
That's so I think Wookie, if you do you, I could jump on this one real quick.
Go for it.
um, so I by no means am I, a professional advisor. However, um, it kind of sounds like your inner self is already telling you that something's wrong. Um, and have you taken the time to sit down and understand what is causing your stress levels to be high? What is it in that environment there that is creating that for you? Is it being around people? Is it the thought of, getting sick, or are people being rude? Um, are you holding your boundaries where you need them to have a more functional work life balance? Just kind of ask yourself, what are your pros and cons? Like, what are the goods and bads about where you're working so that you can find out what is bringing you to the cusp of getting ready to explode? Because you don't want to get there. You absolutely don't want to get there. Burnout is a real thing. Overwhelming yourself is a real thing. And this is a part of that emotional, physical, intellectual, spiritual kind of wellness part where are you checking in with yourself? Can you figure out what's triggering you in this way? And from there, can you make decisions to either shift to another department, another store, another manager? If you bring up these concerns, can you hold firm to your boundaries with, your coworkers or the people around you? Just kind of I hope that helps. Maybe more context
Yeah,
will allow
the way
us.
I see it is sometimes it's like it takes on average. I was reading about this. On average, it takes 3 months for a human being to be sick of their work shit. Basically, it's
3?
3 months. Yeah, 3 months is when you stop that. Wow, new job, hooray! And you just go to it's work. And sometimes, like, even if you're doing something in your free time to like study, to go do something else, or if you're actively searching for another job, just doing that can be enough to relieve it,
Mm,
because then you start opening up to the possibility that this isn't forever. You don't have to
yes.
deal with this forever. And if you're like really, really unhappy about that job, I would suggest you start looking. Find something that's maybe less stressful for you. Something that's like, I'm guessing as a greeter, maybe you're more introverted. And being put in a situation like that, when it's kind of against your nature. You're going to be really, you're going to be out of your element, and that would make you very stressed. But I mean, again,
Yeah.
without context, can't know much more. But if I'm unhappy with a job, looking for another, just the act of looking for another job gives me enough
Mhm.
stress relief, knowing that there's something else out there.
Absolutely.
You leave the door
Uh,
greeter job because of physical limitations. Fair.
which is absolutely fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as you look for other places of employment, to Wiki's point, just make sure you're creating an environment where you can, decompress. Because we all know that person or those people who bring work home with them. And it's a lot of times where, you know, I will have to either delay or cancel a stream myself because I'm just so wound up from the workday.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to know, you have to become more aware of like what you need
Yeah.
and write it down. Write it down because when you sit down to those interviews and you're going to like smash all of them, just be able to say like this is what I need. This is the environment that I'm looking for. Can you provide that? And hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so there's that.
Yeah. So the whole wellness thing is really like interesting, and it's cool. Like, people really do need to, I don't know, look after themselves and take ownership of looking after
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of these times, like, the people, they're not the best to themselves, and you think, would you treat another person like that? Why are you treating you like you
Mhm.
that?
Oh my gosh. That is my Wookie. That is like the lesson that I am like trying to learn for myself.
It's hard.
It is so hard. So there's this thing called shadow work, and I know it sounds like mystical, but I think you're familiar with it. I think we've spoken about it before, but like doing shadow work is like accepting parts of you that you don't necessarily like. And when you're berating yourself or when you're making yourself feel awful, even jokingly, like your brain doesn't know the difference. The same the same way that if you're like thinking about a past trauma or a past embarrassment, your body doesn't know the difference. Like your brain is literally putting you back in that time, in that space. And so it's very interesting. One of the ways that I tried to learn how to stop doing that, stop berating myself and beating myself up when I'm saying like, okay, everyone, be calm, be patient with yourself. And then I'm like, I didn't say that right. Darn it. Why did I do that? And I'm like cursing myself. I literally, it was suggested to me that you pretend, like, look at an old photograph of yourself or your sibling, a younger sibling, and imagine as you're speaking to yourself at that younger age or your sibling at that younger age, would you yell at them that way? Would you say those things to them? Would you call them those names? No. So that has helped. That has truly helped me. But, that takes a lot of conscious effort of like, good. Think about the younger self. Think about the sibling. Am I going to say the thing?
It's just it's something that people need to do. It's maintenance on yourself, you know.
Mm.
I suppose we then move on to the even hotter topic, shall we? The whole
Yes.
representation thing, because we started having a discussion about this, and I'm like, let's save this for the podcast.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh my god! So, uh,
Where do we start?
I don't know. I think what you saying there, DBZ? Every day customers yell at you because I ask them for their damn receipts. Isn't that kind of the job, though?
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yeah.
someone's, you just have to remember that someone else is probably that unhappy with their life that a little inconvenience like that must just send them over the edge, and it's not your fault. You're doing nothing wrong.
Hmm.
You're doing your job.
Absolutely. I think maybe not to delay the discussion of representation, but like for
Run.
that in particular, it's like, you know, something as simple as asking your supervisor, please put up a sign towards the exit that says like prepare your receipts.
Yeah.
Then they know. Cause I've seen it before as I'm like leaving the store and someone's asking for receipts. They're like, oh, they're profiling. They're profiling. Can't believe they're asking. No, we're asking everyone. We're asking everyone.
There's only really a one shop here that does that, and that's Costco.
Hmm.
But that's because it'd be so damn easy to just walk out with something, and like they check everyone. You can't leave until they've checked your receipt.
Yeah. And it's like even oh my goodness. So there's like a store called Marshalls and TJ Maxx here, which is like they sell not necessarily off-brand, but just
Yeah,
like things at a more competitive price, which
yeah.
is awesome.
TJ
And
Maxx is
it's like
here. It's called TK Maxx here though. It's the same
TK
company. It's the
Maxx.
same company.
That's hilarious. I I'm so curious why they do that, but I don't know. But like I've been traveling a lot more for like work and personal reasons, and I had to buy a suitcase because like the one I had didn't have wheels, and it's like this humongous, just like really obnoxious bag, and I'm like, I just can't, I
Poor
can't. My
tiny
spine is
Meli
gonna
just
get in
like
the way.
go across the
Yes,
airport.
yes. Oh my gosh, and it just became too much, and it like so as I was checking out, she's like, "Okay, I gotta unzip everything and like check all the pockets." I was like, "That's fine. I'll help you unzip it. Let me make this faster for you." And then when I left, like they checked again, but like I didn't feel anything about it. So it's like even if someone gets upset about it, like Wookie said, like my crap that I'm feeling has nothing to do with anyone else doing their job. And it goes for everyone. So, yeah.
Speaking of airport
Uh,
security, I got searched a whole bunch of times when I had a much larger beard, and I think that's a bit more of a problem.
oh my gosh. I uh I traveled abroad with my father a couple times, and one of the times that we were coming back, and this is my biological father, and one of the times we were coming back, we were held at customs for 4 hours. They checked everything. They asked us so many questions. It was so like just degrading. You walk through like these like sliding doors and you're like, "Oh, like heaven forbid you forget a piece of luggage on the belt cuz you turn around, you're not leaving. It doesn't open the other way." It's ridiculous. And it was cold in there. Like no manners, anyone.
That's kind of like the job. Like when you're spending all day investigating random travelers,
Mhm.
you're just gonna start getting really grumpy about it, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
I always think of
absolutely.
the people that have to do, pat downs and stuff. They must just get so fucking sick of that.
Yeah, I
And
can only imagine. And hearing the same joke, like, "Oh, that's that's my gun," or no contraband on me." Like, I'm sure, like, whatever joke people think they're making for the first time, I'm certain it's not the first time they've heard it.
it's the same as when you get in a taxi cab and you say, so you start talking about the weather, and then you ask, it's almost universal. You ask them, "Have you been busy today?"
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
time, every time.
Mhm.
Or when you get off a bus, you say thanks to the driver. Literally everyone does that. It's universal. Like they must
Yeah.
just be like, "Why are you thanking me?"
Thanks for doing your job and
Yeah.
not running me over.
Thanks for me paying you for a service. Thanks.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
But yeah,
Goodness.
representation.
Representation,
Holy
which
shit.
is a big deal.
So
Uh,
when I'm talking about representation, like I think I think the important thing is to, yeah, you do that, DBZ. You go to Dragon Con, you enjoy yourself. Get that social recharge. Do
oh,
it.
absolutely.
I'm
Heck yeah.
really are we even gonna get to this topic? Uh, so the way I see it with representation is that you show a person from a specific group or whatever
Mhm,
normally.
mhm,
Like, and I think it can go too far the other way as well with representation, where you're really pushing for something
yes.
specifically and it comes at like expense of the rest of the experience. Um, I mean, at the end of the day,
Which is
it's a
really
piece of entertainment, but like sometimes it's just weird. It's such a weird sort of back and forth with the discourse and everything, but there needs to be more of smaller groups in video games and media and all that, and they need to be shown as normal people
mhm,
because that's what they
mhm.
are. They're normal people.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Like, it's
Yeah, go on.
no,
Go.
no, no, I'm
You were
so
gonna say
sorry to
something.
jump in. No, 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 I think that's absolutely important, and like you said, we got on this topic way earlier where it's it's not for everyone to have a space would just be like perfect.
Hmm.
Like no labels. You pick up a game, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I want to play this game." And you can actually find something that relates to you. And I had a conversation with a really close friend of mine just a couple weekends ago where he was asking me, how do you feel when we play, XYZ game and there's not a character like that reminds you of you in any way, shape, or form. Like, how do you feel about that? And it's very frustrating. I think about it like we have these amazing minds out there developing these wonderful games and these intricate worlds and all these awesome characters, but these very like these very limited characters, like these very limited as far as like representation. I mean, even having androgynous characters is difficult to find on a lot of games. Like, and it's more than just being, a tall, sexy purple elf with pointy ears and nose rings. It's maybe I want to find a detective or, a ghost hunter that has like big curly hair and a small petite frame who's like, whose gait is like almost like Napoleon-esque, like, I've got this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna find all the ghosts. Like, maybe I want that because that makes me feel more connected to the game and maybe makes me want to play the game even more. But it's challenging. It's challenging.
I mean, it's almost like sometimes if a dev does something like that, they're then seen as social justice warriors pandering to overly sensitive people, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't the case. I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, it, it kind of comes through in how popular like immersive sim games are and like RPGs and stuff, because you make your
Mm-hmm.
own character and you make your
Mm-hmm.
own representation of you. And I don't know what that says about me with all my Dark Souls characters because they are messes. But it's, I don't know. I think sometimes they may intend to do something good with it, and then it comes at sacrifice of the quality of the game. And I think that's why
Yeah.
a lot of devs just don't, because they're worried that they're going to make a shit game because they're too busy trying to figure everything else out when they could just copy paste the same character 83,000 times. But like,
Yeah.
it's that, or they push really hard, and then you've got issues like Forspoken,
Uh,
which
yeah.
hurt my soul when I read that stuff. Like, they went hard saying this is a strong female black character in
Mm-hmm.
a fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
None of the dev team are black. They didn't consult anyone.
Yeah.
And you have this white guy in an interview saying she has a hip hoppy walk.
Which
And
is so
she
frustrating.
was close to going to prison before she ended up in the fantasy world. What the fuck?
Yeah. Which is way too far the other way. Way too far the other
It's
way.
like, what does that add to the story? Nothing.
At all. At all. I mean, in thinking that like giving her rage or an attitude instead of an air of like sheer curiosity and happenstance of coming across a world that is, so incredibly, different. It's just like, what stereotypes are we perpetuating at
Hmm.
that point? Because there are going to be so many people who don't identify with that character playing that character and tying in nuances of that personality or that personal experience with, okay, this must be how, that particular type of person is.
I think that's why I
And
like things like Mass Effect so much, because
mhm,
there's just a smattering of everything. There's everything's kind of just shown as just they're just people. Like,
mhm.
you can be gay, you can be straight, you can do whatever, you can bone an alien if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just that's what I'm getting at with the whole immersive sim thing, that it gives people the freedom to go off and explore that themselves,
Mhm.
which I think is more satisfying than just having a set story where specific situation is represented and then it goes really sad and that character always fucking dies.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, it's rough. Certainly rough. Because it's
I,
like,
the whole kill your gay, kill the gays fucking standard. It's in a lot of media.
mhm,
character
Oh
comes out
yeah.
as gay, it's this amazing thing, and they get killed off, and it's super sad.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we just wanted to pull your heartstrings. That's all.
No, show them having fun. Show them going off and doing normal shit. Show them buying milk and
Exactly.
bread and making a
Some
toasted
regular stuff.
sandwich. Fucking hell. Doesn't have to be
It's
this
funny.
giant thing. It's just important.
There's
People
this.
want to feel part of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like there's this comedian, Patton Oswalt, and he's freaking hilarious. And there's a stand-up that he does where he's like, I just want to get casted as the role of a gay man, but I want to be none of the stereotypical gay man mannerisms. Like I want to, like every movie you see, the gay guy has all this intuition. He knows everything. Like he's almost just like reading a crystal ball. And he's like, if I'm gonna do it, I want to be the dumbest gay best friend you've ever had. Like I want to walk in the door and go, "Oh, girl, what do you want to?" I forgot what I was gonna say. I'll be right back and leave the room. Like and it's just hilarious. It's hilarious, but it's stuff like that
It's also
where it's
normal.
like,
It doesn't, like,
yes.
anyone can have those moments where they walk in and they're like, I can't remember what I was going to say. Never mind.
Mid thought, your brain just goes doop doo doo,
Yeah.
doop doo
Mid thought, it's all the way through my thoughts. My brain does that. But
doo.
it's just,
Yeah.
I think it's not even like a conscious effort to whitewash a lot of the time as well. I don't think they're
Hmm.
trying to do that. I don't think they're going, do you know what? Let's just not have anything like that. I think it's a comfort thing. It's
Yeah.
an ease of task because it's so complicated making this stuff. I'm just
Right.
playing devil's advocate. I want more
Yeah.
inclusion in video games and
Right.
movies and
Right.
shit, obviously, but
No, but I think that's a perfect way to play devil's advocate, honestly, because what do? We move along the lines that we're most comfortable so that we can be most successful in our endeavors. Um, but well, not but and and with that, it it calls for adding more diversity and inclusion in those dev spaces so that you can have more
hmm?
people who have had more experiences who are comfortable speaking their story in a way that can just add more versatility to a game. And, like you said, like having someone, sit down at an interview and say like, "Oh yeah, you know, she's got this hip hoppy walk and she was on the verge of going to prison." Like I don't know if anyone has seen this trailer, but this game looks absolutely amazing from the trailer. Like before even knowing about that interview, just getting like the first kind of peeks of what the gameplay looks like it is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And to then kind of dwindle it down with like stereotypical things is so frustrating. It's because not everyone has that experience, and so just adding more diversity and inclusion in those spaces to have more games like, you know, that have characters similar to, let me guess, like an Apex. They have all these different
Hmm?
characters with all these different backgrounds and like super in-depth stories, and you have, characters that are, just so different in their own right and who love, same sex, opposite sex. Like it's just to even add that to a game where it's like you're not really exploring their storyline like that, but their backline. Like they go above and beyond to share like we're not just one
Mm.
dimensional in what we assume this
And that's a good example
person
of
to
it
be.
not coming at cost to the rest of the game.
Mhm.
So you make people feel represented, welcomed,
Mhm.
seen as normal, and the game's not shit.
Yes. Yes.
That's the important thing. Like, if it's a cool story, it's a cool story, regardless of who the characters are. But I just think,
Hmm.
you can add these little touches. You can add these little things that just make it feel a bit more inclusive. And you don't
Yes.
have to change the entire storyline. I mean, it frustrates me when there's things like, you know, uh, The Last of Us 2. I didn't like that game, but it wasn't because of the
Mm-hmm.
storyline or anything like that. I just don't find the game that fun. But a lot of
Hmm.
people were super offended saying it's pandering to social justice warriors and all this because the main character is gay. Or one of the main characters is gay and she kisses another girl and just this whole thing. And it's like, well, no, that's just how they wanted to do the story.
Yeah.
It's
I
just,
mean,
it's stupid. It's stupid.
no, yes, absolutely. And it's like, it makes me think of, what was it? I played, Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, and one of the main characters is Clementine. And I love that this main character, first of all, she's a young woman growing up in the middle of this awful, awful experience. And she no spoilers. I'll pull the spoil. No spoilers. But she has all these experiences, and as you're going through her storyline of her growing up, she gets to a place where she's of age to have, you know, romantic interests, and it is the player's decision who who she's interested in, whether be it, male or female or no one. Like, you can friend zone everybody.
Mhm.
So it's just it's I love games like that, like you said, Mass Effect. If you want to go get with an alien, then you can go do that.
It fits around you rather than
Hmm.
forcing you to a specific thing, and I think that's more welcoming. I think
Yes.
that's more natural feeling to the story and stuff as well, and it feels less shoved in and just kind of, well, corporate said we had to do this, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of, it's inclusive. It's more inclusive that way. And
Yeah.
again, I think that's why immersive sims and things like, big RPGs with silent protagonists are so popular because it's you. It's you doing
Mhm.
it. You make your
Mhm.
decisions and you can go that way. You know?
Yeah.
Just,
Yes.
yeah. It's just important and it's not done enough. But
Yeah.
again, it shouldn't be at the expense of everything else as well.
Yes.
There's this balance you have to hit.
I'll say, there's a game from my childhood. Yes, from my childhood. When you see kind of what it is, you'll be like, you played this as a kid. But yes. So a game from my childhood, that I absolutely loved. It was creepy as heck, but I really enjoyed it. It's called Shadow Man.
Shadow Man, yeah. I
And
know Shadow Man.
I love Shadow Man. And I loved just everything about that game. And for anyone who's, from, the Caribbean or anything like that, if those accents were bad, I'm sorry. I enjoyed it. But Shadow Man is such a beautiful game about a black man who can go between worlds of the living and the dead, and it dabbles into, the history, well, not history, but it dabbles in the world of voodoo. And there are not a lot of games like that just like fully immersed in this entire culture. And it's not, the selling point of this game was not like play as a black protagonist at all. It's literally, it is how games should be. It's play this character who's exploring this, creepy world and fighting these villains, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he's black is why you're playing it. It's
Mm.
the fact that you're learning his story. You find out things about his brother, about his family, about his, life. You meet this mystical woman and you're listening, and it's like everything about it is just, it is an experience, and it's not because it's not a black experience. It's just an experience, and it's an otherworldly game with a wonderful yet creepy storyline. Some of those enemies and those bosses you have to beat is like, wow, this is going to give me nightmares. But it's so good. It's so good. If you haven't checked it out, it's a game that was released in the early 90s. Yes, I'm aging myself, and it's a really good game.
So I like when it comes to talking about cultural stuff as well. There's a bit of an issue with like Scottish people in video games. They're always either really goofy,
Mm-hmm.
with the really thick Scottish accent, or they're really, really self-sacrificing.
Ah,
Think of the Tomb Raider reboot. The Scottish guy,
yeah,
self-sacrificing. Think
yeah.
of the dwarves in Dark Souls 2, goofy. You know,
Yes.
it's just how it is. It's really bizarre, and I don't really understand it because we're just the same as everyone else. We just got different accents.
Yeah. And there's also the I don't know. I feel like there's also the thought that they've got to be the mastermind evil villain. There's also that one. It's just very interesting. It's very interesting. It's like everyone has their box and they're like, "Oh, accent, Scottish accent." Bloop, right there.
Goofy guy. Let's go. Move on.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I think we're good to leave it there. But I just want to thank you for your time, Meli. We'll need to do this again. This was fantastic. I
Absolutely.
always always relish the opportunity to sit and chat with you. I want to do it more. And if you guys want
Same.
to check out Meli, like MeliDaMartian on Twitch or Martian Meli on Twitter.
Yes.
There we go. I
Yes.
got it right. I got it right. Even though it's right there on my other screen, I wasn't looking. Uh, so yeah, thank you so much for your time. Any closing thoughts?
um So I guess my only remarks in general is, first of all, Wookie, thank you so much for allowing me to sit and talk to you about all these things that we both love and adore. And I I think that these are really awesome conversations to have. I hope that people took something from this, even if it's just one person. That makes me feel better. um so no, I just continue to be kind to yourself and others, and this was a lot of fun for me. So thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space with you.
So when's your podcast happening, huh?
Oh, we'll see about that.
You should totally do one. You should absolutely do one.
Let's talk after this, because you might be onto something.
All right, guys. I'll be back in a bit with some Satisfactory where we finally made the place coal powered. I know, I did a thing. I was productive.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
guys. I'll be back in a minute. Meli, once again, I love you. Thank you so much. Bye
Mwah,
bye.
mwah, mwah, mwah.